Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed and we are in the Philosophical Midwifery book. We have just done a big review of the whole book and fielded some questions from chat, which was really great. Wow. And now we're going to continue our reading from where we left off about the 3 kinds of mean analogies. Where is he going to take us with these? Let's jump in. The development through these 4 stages, what are they? Ignorance, right opinion, understanding, knowledge, requires a different analogy from the mean analogy of 3 terms that we use to express the Dharma transmission, the true teaching model. In that analogy, Socrates occupied the mean terms between Diotima and Agathon. But in it's a reflection. In that analogy, Socrates occupied the mean terms between Diotima and Agathon, but in respect to the development through each of the 4 cognitive stages, we will need another model. The cognitive process starts
to understand and also refusing to understand. Why not both, right?
This is why she's the oracle. Yes. You start off with too stupid and refusing to understand, ignorance. But then there's a different kind of ignorance that brings you into the process, which is a kind of ignorance based on having emptied oneself from all beliefs about a subject. So we had a question about religion earlier today, and you have to empty yourself from that stuff. You can't find the truth about reality and the divine if you walk around very smugly saying, I know what God is. From my religion, the guy in the funny hat and the dress told me, and he was waving incense around. I ain't never seen that before. He must be right. Really what they're saying is, that person looked and sounded enough like my mummy and daddy in my Pathologos origin scene that I will believe that person at the expense of myself. My self-goals, my self-reasoning, my self-development, my self-mind. And I will act unjustly towards anyone under my power. That's the nature of human problems. You're going to empty that shit. To a different kind of ignorance where you have emptied yourself of beliefs about a subject. Right opinion is a learning that fills the gap. Through understanding, one recognizes why. By the way, that's why we read Socrates, the Balboa Socrates, and this midwifery book to get the opinions. But also why we read in this new kind of way. This kind of reading where we're very specific to the text. We're looking for dialectical patterns and structures within the text, and we're looking to use it ourselves in our conversations with ourselves and with our friends and the people in Discord. Join below. Confirming that understanding through one's direct experience is knowledge. There is one thing that is taught, but there are 3 cumulative levels of knowing. It is because it is this cumulative or additive factor that we can say the development from understanding to knowledge is greater, expresses a greater value than from ignorance to right opinion. So we would call that exponential. To reflect, where's my mouse? To reflect that difference analogically, we will use what has been called the perfect analogy, an analogy of 4 terms where we find 2 mean terms, the arithmetic and harmonic, between the extremes. A particular case of the perfect analogy. Okay, so there is something called the perfect analogy in purple. A particular case of the perfect analogy is 12 is to 9 as 8 is to 6. What? The second term 9 is the mean in the arithmetic mean analogy. 12 is to 9. So arithmetic means adding. or subtracting. So take away 3 from 12, you have 9. Take away 3 from 9, you have 6. That's the arithmetic. So if we cross out this one, cross out that 8, 12 is to 9 as 9 is to 6. All right. Excuse me. The second term the third term, 8, is the mean term in the harmonic mean analogy. Harmonic is a weird one. Harmonic is the trickiest one because I might just do a quick lesson on the 3 mean analogies, just in case it's not explained well in the text. I don't know. We'll see. So the mean analogies. So we already know a mean analogy is not a 4-term analogy. Like king is to subjects as shepherd.
That's where you live, in the weirdo pool. You're going around doing that in the weirdo pool. That's you.
That's a shepherd. He does that noise in the weirdo pool. It's a 4-term analogy. But we want a mean analogy, which is more like Diotima is to Socrates as Socrates is to us. Now, we talked about representing that mathematically. Where 3, there is the geometric, which is also called the parental. The parent analogy. Geometric mean analogy. Which is times. And we'll say times. Like 2 times 4 is 8. Oh, remember it's a mean, so it's 2 times 4 is 8 times 8 by 4 is 32. That's a geometric. Those numbers are too big. Let's go smaller. 2 is to 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay.
What feminists want is to specifically ruin your life.
Interesting. Never thought of it that way, Emma. The arithmetic is pluses and minuses. So we would say something like 2 is to 4 as 4 is to 6. Plus 2, plus 2. Getting it? Gotten it? Got it? Have it? Great.
Well, you're doing your best. Okay, so sorry, Ben. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Okay. And the final one is the harmonic. This one is the tricky one. This is the one that can be hard to explain. Harmonic. This is what I would consider balance. Balance. So the metaphor I use, if you were babysitting and you had a 2-year-old sitting on the couch watching, what would you watch if you were babysitting? Blue's Clues? No, that's probably not around anymore. SpongeBob? No, that's gone downhill, hasn't it? Miss Rebecca. Apparently she's really, really popular. You're watching Miss Rebecca on the couch. There's a 2-year-old over here. Let's move this up a little bit. You've got a 2-year-old baby. Little nappy pin. And pacifier. Curl of hair. Ears and nose. Got a baby there. That's 2. And you've got a a 6-year-old sitting there on the couch as well. There's a 6-year-old like that.
Too stupid to understand and also refusing to understand. Why not both, right?
He's got his Nintendo Switch in his hand. So you have to make a decision if you were to be a good babysitter. Where are you going to sit on the couch? Well, you probably want to sit closer to the little baby because he needs more of your attention. And
I find that very entertaining.
And Arun finds that entertaining. So there's a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. And you're sitting here. You probably want to be closer to the baby. But you want to also not be too far away from the 6-year-old, so you got to decide how far from the baby and how far away from the 6-year-old, based on their need for your attention as a babysitter. That's the question. Well, so you're sitting here, which we can see visually is, let's put you in a dress because philosophy isn't just about the dudes. This is you. More hair on top. God, you look crazy. What's wrong with you? There you go. My art is wonderful. So we want this gap to be based on this gap, to be balanced. So what do? We'll say, okay, the 6-year-old is 3 times 6-year-old. The 6-year-old is 3 times as old as their 2-year-old. So the 6-year-old will need 3 times less of your attention. Or to put it another way, the 2-year-old will need 3 times more of your attention. So what does that mean? So this gap here has to be 3 times 2, 4, 6, 3 times as big as this gap here. So let's let's call this gap A and gap B. So gap A has to therefore be 3 times bigger than gap B. I hope this is making sense so far. So let's say let's make you 3. 3 is from 2 to 3, from 2, from 3 to 2 equals 1. So you are this gap here. Therefore, B equals 1. So this gap is 1. If you are 3. The gap between 3 and 6 is 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 take 3 equals 3. Therefore, the gap here, the gap A...
Talking about a bunch of slop.
It's not. Trust me, it's complicated, but we're going to get there. A equals 3. So we want to see if B and A, this gap and this gap, matches this. Or in other words, A is 3 times B. A is 3. So let's bring it over to this equation here. Therefore, is 3, which is A, it's underneath. Does 3 equal 3 times B, which is 1? Yes. That's how you make a harmonic relation. The distance here and here is relative to the distance between here and here. The gaps between the mean and the extremes is based on the difference between the two extremes.
Hey, whoa. Who asked you? Okay, go ahead.
Hard to imagine unless you use my famous babysitter analogy. You want to sit on the couch 1 space away from baby and 3 spaces away from the 6-year-old. Look at him. He's got his Nintendo Switch. He's all right. You can be 3 away. But if he has a problem, it's not far. You don't have to go far to help him out. Like maybe he gets stuck on the new Mario Kart game on his Switch 2. And you can reach over and grab the Switch without a problem. But if the baby has a problem, you might have to, like he's going to fall off the couch or something. You might have to act quickly. So it's better to be 1 spot away from him and 3 spots away from him. So you are sitting in a harmonic mean analogy. We got there, folks. Hooray. More.
Wow. What? Wow.
There we go. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now let's see if the text explains it better than we did. So we've got the 4-term analogy here. So we don't want that. We want the mean analogy. Not the 4-term. And that can be expressed in these 3 ones. So we got 2 is to 3 is to 6. So this gives us 3. Okay. So keep that in your brain, in your mind. Brain's physical. And let's keep reading. Oh, any questions from anybody in chat? Please drop them in. So we can get an arithmetic mean from this perfect analogy by getting rid of the 8 and say 12 is to 9 as 9 is to 6. So arithmetic is pluses and minuses. -3, -3. In the harmonic, 8 is closer to 12 in the same way 6 is closer to 12. Okay, the way that 6 relates to 12, let's work it out. 6 and 12 is double. So the difference between the middle term, you on the sofa, you have to be, this side here has to be double this side here. Make sense? 12 is double as 6. You got a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old on the couch this time that you are babysitting. So let's see. 6 to 8 is 2. 6, 7, 8. 8 to 12 is 4. 4 is twice as big as 2, just as 12 was big as 6. We got there.
Wow.
The difference between the mean terms in these analogies is clear. As 9 is greater than 8, the mean term in the arithmetic analogy is greater than that of the harmonic. Ooh, yes. By that kind of difference, we signify a difference in value as understanding is greater than right opinion. Now that's interesting. This perfect analogy representation of the mean analogies doesn't just say, hey, there are these different analogies, they're all equal, some are better. And fortunately for you, I am a musician, so I can show you why this is the case. If you know anything about music, you know that there are 3 basic relationships. The octave, which is the parent, everything else is based on the octave. That's the octave.
Flippity jibbity nonsense.
Yes, quite Joe. And now within that, you've got all the notes. But the next most important relationship is the perfect fifth. Which gives you a power chord. The next most important relationship is the perfect fourth. I'm going to use this in a chord. That's the sound of a perfect fourth. Not bad. It's better than this. Ooh, yuck. But not as good as the perfect fifth. And the octave is even more resonant. That's the octave. The fifth. The fourth. There's also, here's the note. Here's the harmonic. It's an octave. Here's the next harmonic. The fifth. Anyway. Why am I playing with my guitar? To point out that these mean relationships are themselves within a hierarchy. The octave is more important than the fifth, and that's more important than the fourth. Just as what we're reading here, the arithmetic mean analogy is...
Hey, whoa. Who asked you? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Is more important than the harmonic. The arithmetic is greater than the harmonic. By that kind of difference, we signify a difference in value, as understanding is greater than right opinion, for an understanding adds a dimension to right opinion. Thus, so we're adding. That's huge. We're adding to it. Thus, the perfect analogy can be used to represent, and we're not replacing one belief from another. Like, hey, give up your goals to accept this religious belief. No. We're adding to it. Given that this is a right opinion, it is understandable. It should fit within the dialectic and logos. And the mean analogies. So add it. Thus, the perfect analogy can be used to represent the stages of cognitive functioning. The stages of cognitive functioning in the Platonic cycle of learning. This is a big one. So we've been talking about what happens if someone tries to engage at the level of belief. Like the famous joke is, you're in Ireland and you get cornered in a dark alley and a mysterious figure grabs you from behind and holds a knife to your neck and says, "Are you Catholic or Protestant?" What a terrible situation to be in. Because beliefs can't coexist, because they are stupid and wrong and harmful, and based on tribal loyalty and fucking ignorance and nothing good. Sorry if it hurts your feelings, but it's fucking true. That's the example. And to illustrate that we don't want to play the "Are you Protestant or Catholic" game, well, you have to say, look, there are different cognitive functions. Why are you interested in belief if it's a shitty cognitive function? So this stage of cognitive function is a fantastic phrase that we need to normalize. There are different stages of cognitive functions. Stages, and in other words, some are better and more advanced along the stage. Stage 1, stage 2. And of course, the end of that joke is, so you're cornered in a dark alley, a knife to your throat, held from behind, and someone whispers into your Irish accent, "You Protestant or Catholic?" And then thinking quickly on your feet, you say, "I'm actually Muslim." And then you hear, coming from the voice behind you, "I must be the luckiest Jew in all of Ireland." Not a funny joke, but a true, speaks to the truth. He gets to kill someone. He gets to play out his pathologos ignorance and certainty and sickness on someone who's different from his tribe. That which makes us barbarians and is keeping the world in a stupid state of slavery, oppression, and ignorance, and will eventually cause our extinction unless we wake up and do this.
Wow. But this is probably the stupidest. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, stages of cognitive function, important. So, you could write a new joke where you get asked that question and you turn around and say, well, actually, belief is a low stage of cognitive function. It's one that keeps us in barbarism and ignorance. Let's move from that to philosophical ignorance, where you're emptying your false beliefs, then right opinion, then understanding, then knowledge, then, well, beyond that, we have to get into philosophy. The philosopher's challenge is nothing other than to experience each of these stages and in turn... Oh, okay, so this is big. You know it's big because he's saying it's nothing other than. So this is a big ass sentence. The philosopher's challenge is nothing other than to experience each of these stages and in turn encourage others to take this passage. So we would add to that joke.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
We would add to that joke. Right. Protestant or Catholic, you say? Well, belief, and especially supernatural belief, is a low stage of cognitive function. I have been through that stage. On my way to philosophical ignorance, right opinion, understanding, and knowledge. I know what it's like. I know how hard it is. I know how important it is to get out of it. And I know how appealing and attractive this way of being where you can pretend to be God and kill people because you're imitating your fucking stupid parents who were fucking stupid to you when they did this shit to you. And they'll say, don't say anything about my ma and my pa. So we won't say that part, but we'll say, I've been through the stages. Let me encourage you to go through the stages too. And then that person turns around and says, I've never had anybody talk with me with such reason and with such empathy, intelligence, and compassion. I have turned myself around. I will also go through the stages of the Platonic cycle of learning, and I too will turn around and encourage my fellow Irish people to do the same. And that joke will be the funniest joke ever said, and everyone will laugh. And they'll clap. Just like that. What is realized is this process reproduces itself in the Dharma succession. Dharma succession, the true model of teaching. Much like a recursive series, and that succession benefits those who can come within its scope. Keywords for us in philosophy: benefit, scope, and become part of its noble progression. So this is the noble progression. The failure to emerge from the pathologos means another Dharma succession is played out and is disruptive as it is redundant. So this is the cancelling waves. We have the shitty pathologos teaching, inflict the same ignorance and injustice onto others that we suffered, or we have the actual one, the Dharma succession. The pathologos is passed on successively in each generation, but the pattern of that transmission is carried by a distorted mean analogy. Boo. That has the appearance of being genuine. Again, remember, has to have the appearance of being genuine and caring, yet it is neither. That's the big one. Appearance of genuine and caring. So we're learning how to be really caring people. Notice, it isn't being polite. When someone says, I really like my beliefs in, I don't know, pick a religion, Protestant, no, Lutheran. I really like Lutheran. Tell me I'm a good boy. You don't say, yes, that's just as right as anything. No, that's not nice or polite or caring or genuine. We would instead try to participate in the true teaching analogy and encourage them to go through the stages of cognitive functioning. And the people out there who are the best people and the most worth watching or listening to or engaging with their content are people who are doing their best to encourage that progression from ignorance or beliefs to self-reflection in order to participate either in right opinions, because they are people who have right opinions. We say that they're insightful people or clever people, funny or charming people, because of their right opinions, or to follow their steps of reasoning to see why what they're saying is right. Which means these great people are doing their best to encourage the movement into understanding, reflection on the causes and principles that make their right opinions true. So these are the best people out there. And the people that you probably want to look to be friends with, because they're the people who are likely to love this stuff. Remember, when we talked about last time, when we talked about the development through the 3 stages of philosophy, right? Starting with your physical senses on the physical world. If people get stuck there, they will eventually end up thinking, well, life's about manipulating people, which is harming them and your own soul in order to extract profit or money that you can use to meet your physical pleasures or fame.
Hey, whoa. Who asked you? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, very important. That's where the bankers and the politicians and the grifters and the liars and all of the fucking bullshit artists who play around in this planet screwing people over. But if you love learning, you can go out of this ignorance. Philomathesis, the lover of learning, looking at causes and principles. Ideas, reality. Let's add reasoning in there. Reasoning. It's the wrong color. And then from there, once you realize that there is a necessity for another level of reality that's accessible to human beings and also necessary for the physical world and for our mind that can engage in this, then you have moved
to understand and also refusing to understand.
Right, that's the bottom level. And you refuse to understand. But then, now you're in philosophy. Philos Sophia, love of wisdom. When you start to apply the logos and dialectic to all things, to our reading, to midwifery, to dream analysis, and to philosophy. The Balboa version of Socrates. Balboa translation of Socrates. And that, once you reach this level of wisdom, you keep going, which is the next level, philophronesis, the love of the state of being your authentic self. But notice, each of these levels are love. You have to love it. You have to desire it. Want it for yourself. Want to be immortally joined with it. You have to realize you don't have it. You desire what you don't have yet. You gotta realize you don't have it and want it. So all of the love words, romantic
you're doing
words.
Your best. Okay, so sorry, Ben. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was saying that the words that we use to express love normally are about joining. I want to be with my beloved, but not for a little while, forever, eternal. I want to be with you until the stars fall out of the sky. So an eternal joining with that which we lack, but we really want the most. Love. Loving learning. Loving wisdom. Loving the state of being self. I forgot why I was talking about the need for love, but let's keep going. Appearance of genuine and caring. Oh, yeah, maybe that's it, because we are, genuine and caring or loving. Yet it is neither. So the pathologos is the negative teaching model that's disruptive and redundant. It's the slop. It's the stagnant, shallow pool of intelligence that is gross and full of disease. It's a slop pool. It's carried by a distorted mean analogy with the appearance of being genuine and caring, yet is neither. The distorted mean analogy of the pathologos. Let's just put that as one. It's a pretty nice sentence.
We're going to engage in dishonesty?
That's what it means to engage in dishonesty, the pathologos. The distorted mean analogy of the pathologos functions as if it were valid. As if is in italics. and it is assumed to be valid, assumed, it's not questioned, by those who accept it. But it is only an image of the real. These are heavy-hitting words that really get to the root of human problems. The pathologos transmission is an image. The transmission is also an image or shadow of a transmission of a teaching, because no opinions are taught, no understanding is reached, and since no confirmation of the pathologos is possible, because it's stupid and wrong and the cause of all of our injustice and suffering in the world, it can never reach or be called knowledge. It can never reach or be called knowledge. So, if we are here to gain knowledge, then any sort of belief other than the right opinions to do with the logos in philosophy and midwifery is going to get in your way. So it's not a matter of genociding all the people who have different beliefs or crusading them or whatever, which themselves are just excuses to manipulate the most stupid and brainwashed in order to gain resources by people who are not loving learning but loving the physical body and are seeking money to get fame and physical pleasure, but it won't reach knowledge. So out the door. Because any politician or anyone in any sort of ruling or position where they have to give benefit needs a knowledge. So if anyone is saying, well, I have beliefs, fuck off. Get out of here. If you go to a doctor, do you have knowledge of medicine? Well, I have beliefs. Get the fuck out. You can't benefit anyone with your stupid beliefs. You need knowledge of medicine. Same thing with flying a plane. Well, I have deeply held Muslim beliefs or deeply held Jewish beliefs or deeply held Christian beliefs that tell me I should fly a plane because I believe in Jeebus. Get the fuck out of here. It will crash. We all know this. We all know this. But still, somehow, the clergy and the politicians who are cosplaying having knowledge and can't have knowledge by definition because it doesn't go through right opinions, understanding, confirmation, and direct experience, because it is belief. They can't have knowledge, meaning they can't do benefit. They can't bestow a benefit like a pilot or a surgeon, meaning they are not qualified and they are the least qualified. They're the people who should least be in those positions. And because we haven't seen this and demanded this same rational approach to politics and spirituality, the same way we do to medicine and flying a plane, we are suffering the significance of that. As a species, we are living through what it's like to be without the logos. And it fucking sucks. Because I would like to have a place to live in without having to stress every day about rent, without having to walk out into the street and seeing many people sleeping on the street now, that rent has doubled for no reason and, well, for profit, and politicians who also are homeowners and landlords themselves aren't doing anything. I'm watching people die on the streets in Australia. It fucking sucks. And hearing about people dying en masse all over the world because of the same fucking ignorance. And it sucks. It's unnecessary. But it is necessary to wake us up to the significance of learning the logos and understanding the pathologos. Above all. There might only be a handful of people yelling out into the void, this is what's worth doing, but something is happening. People are fighting back. The level of TikToks and Instagrams and video essays on YouTube of people actually reflecting to find the principles and causes of problems is amazing. We are getting better. And those people who used to be laughed at by the ignorant Or the people distracted by shapes and colors. Hey, don't talk about politics. Have fun. Buy a new Bugatti. Those
The
people
more
are now
holes, the
silent.
better.
Right. Those people, Emma, they're now silent. Because even those most blinded can see the fascism and Nazism taking over the whole fucking world. And even those people are now homeless or can't afford food in developed nations like Australia, like America. And we're seeing genocides while the most sick, who most in need of therapy, of midwifery, like Benny Yahoo and Trump. Somehow they've got the keys to the car and they are murdering and torturing people en masse. We're seeing that, so even the bootlickers are becoming silent. While good people are learning to use their voice for reason. But the worst people are now surfacing to defend this tyranny. The Palantir people, the Elon Musk people, the Nazis. So we are in an interesting spot where the worst of humanity is surfacing to defend the greatest injustice possible. We have an ability to address our pathologos as a species because it's represented in them. We have what we need to look at now. We can solve the problems of our fucking species. We can do it. They're surfacing. The Petersons and the Musks and the Republicans, they're all surfacing now. They are showing their colors. And the Democrats too, because that's not real progressive. Real progressive party would be following these stages of development. They're not doing that. They're capitalists too. They are surfacing. But on the other hand, there is far more people who are brilliant, who are reasoning, who are spending their time looking at problems, causes, demanding principles. It's not a principle to say we have to invade Iran, we have to kill everyone in Iran because they might have a nuclear weapon one day. If that's a principle, then everyone maybe might have a nuclear weapon one day. It's not a principle. It's bullshit. And people are saying that. People are spending their time trying to convey that in a way that's much more pleasant than I do. I just yell bullshit a lot and say, wake the fuck up a lot. I'm working on that. I also play music to say it more beautifully and so on. But this channel is for people who are not to be mollycoddled. If you're here on this channel, you understand. And not have to hurt, not protecting your feelings. If you're here, you love a reason. You love understanding. You love truth more than loyalty to ignorance. So it's fine to talk about it here. Straight up. Because we're learning it. When you're learning medicine at college and someone says, well, I don't like that the gallbladder is there. I learnt in my Sunday school that the gallbladder is in a different place because Jesus lives there. They're not going to give that any attention. They're not going to say, oh, well, let's pretend for your feelings. No, we'll say, you either learn the truth or you fail medicine. That's what we're doing here. But we are surfacing the good people who are spending their time trying to communicate how to move from ignorance to understanding. How to reflect with reason, how to find the causes of problems and not one word blame answers. Like the cause of problems, blacks, women. No, that's fucking stupid. Here is how you address the causes. Here is how you find principles and demand principles. Here is how you reason. And what do they look like? They don't look like men in suits. They don't look like... By the way, the men in suits are surfacing too. The men in suits are the worst. They are not the experts. They don't know about the economy. They don't know about politics. They are fucking lying while wearing a suit. Equally so, the alpha bros, we've seen them now. They are whores. Well said. The alpha bros. Well, look how big and strong they are, like my superheroes in Marvel movies. Maybe they have it figured out. That's the grift. And for the last 20 years or 15 years, they have been using that false image to scam money out of young men. The Joe Rogans and stuff, while making people worse off, more ignorant, and more prejudiced and racist. So what are we seeing? The best among us don't look like someone in a suit, don't look like a pope in a funny hat, don't look like someone with big muscles. They look like regular people who reason and have fun with it. Humanity is surfacing the best of us, who we need to look to guide us in a new direction. And if you don't know who they are, pay attention to my sound drops. They look like regular people. Until you spend some time in midwifery and philosophy, and then you see that they don't look like regular people. They seem like regular people to everyone else, but they shine with a beauty that transcends the physical plane. Their beauty is the self reflecting through reason, and their desire to share that to benefit. The people born into extreme wealth, disgusting wealth, and can afford the big suits, and then get a job in politics, and then get a job for oil companies, and then get a job in some war machine company. And then they are the ones we have to pick between to be politicians. Nope, not anymore, fuckers. We see through the appearance. We look for people who glow with the light of the self, reason, logos, and the desire to benefit through the art of reason. And these people won't want to lead us, but we have to make a case, the rest of us, that we are working on our pathologos, all of us, so that we won't counterattack you when you get into positions of leadership that we need. And number two, we're doing the best in philosophy so that we can learn to reason like you do. And number three, we're doing dream analysis to notice our blind spots and progress in those things. And we're doing mythology. We're using our understanding and our vision to inform our art, our occupations, our jobs. And if we can make that case that these good people shining with the light of self, maybe we'll say, okay, well, I will lead. I will use what I have, what I am, and what I've learned to benefit everyone. That's our job, to find them. And they're surfacing. Which is, of course,
it's a win-win.
A win-win. So, we better understand the difference between the con artists, which is the question of this whole chapter, by the way. Let's go back and see how that little tangent isn't really a tangent. It's relating what we're reading to everyday world, because it's based on the questions that we are carrying from the opening of this chapter. Humans seeks to know the nature of the reality he has been born into, and desires to discover his role within that reality. Yet as noble as this quest is,
you're a wizard, Harry.
We find man everywhere accepting the appearance in the suit, with the muscles, with all the money, yelling on Fox News, disgustingly yelling across Parliament House, wearing robes, wearing funny hats, wearing crowns. We accept the appearance for the real, the imitation for the model, belief for knowledge. How is it that we have been repeatedly fooled by what, from its very first appearance, the very first time you see Elon Musk or Donald Trump or Putin or Hitler, we should have, or a guy with a big Pope hat or whatever the heck, we should have rejected it as false and base and low. Not based, but base. The lowest, the baseline human functioning, the worst. Why are we tricked by appearances, imitations, and beliefs instead of real, the model or paradigm, and knowledge? So, understanding reality, understanding the model or paradigm, reaching knowledge, that's philosophy. Understanding why we have been tricked by appearance, by imitation, by belief is midwifery. That's why we do both. But look for those people. Look for the people who have a beauty that confuses you, because it seems to be greater than physical beauty and yet still makes their physical beauty glow in a transcendent way. Look for the people whose beauty confuses idiots. They don't understand it because they can't relate to it, because the pathologos blocks you from relating to things in reality. Let's have a look at that one more time. Unable to relate to or accept that there is sufficient evidence. And so we go on to read that people become defensive and aggressive. Where is it? Here we go. Not only is there a lack of evidence to support their pathologos, they have to deny a mass of evidence that opposes their conclusions. Further, they become confused and defensive about their situation because they cannot relate to an existence they cannot acknowledge. So look for the people who have that glowing, radiant beauty that makes them physically beautiful, of course, but is confusing to a lot of dum-dums and makes them defensive or aggressive towards them, because they can't relate to the logos of self that shines through their being that makes them exceptionally beauty or transcendently beautiful in that way. Look for those people. Look for the people whose haters have to be idiots, and yet they can't pull away. They recognize something about them as different and transcendently beautiful, but they can't put their finger on it because they can't relate to an existence they can't acknowledge, because that existence is the self logos. It's their highest, it's the self that we all are, emanating through logos, through reason. The very thing the pathologos has to fundamentally reject: self, mind, logos. And also, those things are needed for care or benefit or empathy. So it's the unempathetic who are blocked from those things and who are confused by those things. And so the people who do personify those things and still go out and talk to these people, talk to the everyday people, are doing the best work. Look to them for friends, for interlocutors, for relationships, and for eventually those who can pick up the mastery of the logos, hopefully themselves, together with all of us. And we will make a strong case that once the most pathologos-ridden capitalists and Nazis and fascists and violent murderers are out, they should come in and use that beauty of the self-logos to benefit all of us. Okay? Whereas there's others who are stuck in their pathologos, the image of the real, the appearance, the beliefs, appearance, and image that we are duped by, can't reach knowledge, meaning they can't ever benefit Meaning, of course, our world is a shit show right now. Like, we've got the least qualified to be doctors doing all the surgery. A silent, non-verbal teaching. Okay. It's not possible. It can never be called knowledge. So pathologos is not knowledge. So unless you have gone through this process,
What feminists want is to specifically ruin your life.
I suspected as much. Yeah, people running around calling what they have knowledge ain't knowledge. By definition, it can't be. Unless, of course, it goes through these steps. A silent, non-verbal teaching that is implicit in a scene and which is never discussed. Okay, silent. Non-verbal. Teaching, not learning. Implicit, not explicit. In a scene, single scene. Not repeatable. Never discussed. No logos, no questions. Never reviewed. Never challenged. We also would say behind closed doors. Does not fit into a Dharma transmission mean analogy. The logos, the central teaching, must be presented and confirmed, and without... So, the logos, this is the opposite. The logos, which is the central teaching, must be presented, not hidden and assumed, so you walk away thinking, shit, there must be something wrong with me, because mummy and daddy didn't explain it, but they acted as if I was wrong, whatever. Confirmed. The logos central teaching must be presented and confirmed, and without that transmission, it is not a teaching. Further, the structure of the mean analogy represents the natural ordered world. A world whose intrinsic order is reflected in the properties of the mean analogy. The natural ordered world. So this is why we are able to see it. Excuse me. I'm usually barring my teeth. That's why we're able to see it in the musical scale and use music to understand it. Because it's the paradigm for the natural ordered world as well. A world whose intrinsic order is a world whose intrinsic order is reflected in the properties of the mean analogy. So the intrinsic order of our physical world can be seen in the reflected in the properties of the mean analogy. Terms that can be properly assigned to a ratio having a fundamental similarity to another ratio can be said to have an analogical mode of existence that is inherent within the properties of the analogy. That is a sentence and a half. That's very confusing. Terms that can be properly assigned to a ratio having a fundamental similarity to another ratio can be said to have an analogical mode of existence. Right, so the ratio between king and subjects is similar to shepherd and sheep. Just as it would show a lack of understanding of mathematics to expect that any randomly chosen number would properly function in a progression or proportion, so it is equally true that ideas cannot be randomly assigned to an analogy, for the structure of both progressions and analogy has a determining force that determines the term selected, as well as a location and function within that structure. In other words, it isn't just any old fucking shit. Just because your parents told you something doesn't make it true. If you tried to apply that to mathematics, if there was a progression, 2 is to 4 is to 6 is to 8, and then you said 48, hang on a second, that doesn't fit. No, but my Bible says it's 48. My mummy said it's 48. Or I don't know why I believe it's 48, but that's absurd. So why do we allow it at home? Or in politics? Or in religion? It's stupid. But we gotta figure out why we are so held captive by such stupidity. That's our quest as human beings.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Okay. The structure of both progressions and analogy has a determining force that determines the term selected, as well as its location and function within that structure. It ain't randomly chosen number. So let's put that in pick. The validation of philosophical midwifery adds another aspect of credibility to the idea of structural similarity. The idea that there are similar dynamics, relations or functions, operating on multiple levels of reality. These levels move from the individual to the family, group, political state, as well as to metaphysics. Which is why we're able to talk about this happening within ourselves, within our family. It's easier to see the dynamics because our family is weird. Well, to us, I suppose it's normal, but our families are weird and you can see the weirdness happening in your family. But also we play out the implications of these problems politically as well. We have political problems that we're not able to solve for some reason when they're so obvious. But also metaphysics. So some people think that part of the American support of the extinction and the genocide of Muslims in the Middle East done by the Israeli state is part of a metaphysical belief structure where the Armageddon happens when the Jews fight the Muslims and then Jesus comes and kills everyone and leaves the Christians because they're the best or whatever. That's the metaphysics. The principle of structural similarity is the condition for analogy. And without it, there would be no basis for the many models of comparison that include okay. Obviously, that's not you can go into the actual metaphysics behind Armageddon if you want, but I'm talking about it in a dismissive way because it's dumb, but important to understand. The principle of structural similarity. This is a big one. If you know anything about Pierre Grimes, he uses this term a lot. Or rather, his students use it a lot. Is the condition for analogy. Structural similarity. Without it, there would be no basis for the many modes of comparison that include there are many modes of comparison that exist, and it wouldn't exist if structural similarity didn't work. Rip. Analogy, similes, and metaphors. Right, so we can use similes and metaphors to understand different things because of structural similarity. Because the higher levels are reflected in a distorted way into the lower levels.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
These days, isn't it bad? So we can learn about the higher levels that we are not yet in through analogy because of structural similarity. The insight that nature can be understood as an interrelated whole. There's an insight. What's our insight? That nature can be understood as an interrelated whole. Isn't that interesting? Owen?
Wow!
Provides the basis for discovering a wide range of analogies in what previously might have been regarded as dissimilar or different systems. The application of analogical thinking for creating new theories, root metaphors, monads. Okay. So the insight that nature can be understood as a whole, interrelated whole, all of our world can be understood. Which was back to our question last time, where our friend said, well, I'm interested in some things about Buddhism, but I noticed there were some problems, I'm not sure what. We asked, hang on a second.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
Didn't find a lot of them in Buddhism. Maybe unfortunately. But the idea was, well, what makes the Logos better? The Logos, or understanding, is able to understand all belief systems, not just picking one. Who have the coolest mantras or the biggest army, or, well, usually it's what your parents had. It can be understood. Notice, not believed, but understood as an interrelated whole. And then you can discover a wide range of analogies. Hooray! In what previously might have been regarded as dissimilar or different systems. The application of analogical thinking for creating new... Okay, let's make this green. For new theories, new root metaphors. Right? Theories, we talked about the difference between understanding, I guess. Oh, theories. Newton's theory of gravity taken over by Einstein's because we have different evidence, because experiments done closer to the speed of light indicate an Einsteinian model rather than a Newtonian model. But root metaphors. Is reality, like the Christians say, a battleground between the forces of evil and the forces of good, and we sing the song, Onward Christian Soldiers Marching as to War? Is that the metaphor for understanding reality? Or maybe that's fucked, and the root metaphor is something more like ignorance moving into logos, rather than evil fighting good. And if you've ever met those people on the good team, that is fucking disgusting, and I wouldn't want to be on that team. It's terrible and ignorant and violent and racist and all that shit that comes along with sacrificing your mind and reason for clan identification. Monads. So analogical thinking for creating new theories, new root metaphors, new monads, new archetypes, and the matrix of analogies is the source of many significant discoveries. So,
If you don't
this we can
understand
also
this, you're
discover
either being
things.
intentionally obtuse because you want to be mad at something and you just don't know what you're supposed to be mad at, so you are the NPC chip meme, or you're really stupid.
These are those people with the war metaphor, the evil metaphor. Stupid NPC chip memes. But we can actually discover new discoveries through analogy, which is the principle behind... Which is the principle behind what we have been looking at here. Structural similarity within reality allows us not only to comprehend reality, the natural world, and the intelligible world as a whole, but it also allows us this. Remember how we look for different groupings of things in different areas? Like we saw last time, we saw there are 4 categories in the dialectic, so it can go into our 4 skill tree. But there are 4 stages in the cognitive, in the Dharma successorship in philosophy. Ignorance, right opinion, understanding, knowledge. And the fact that we can put them both together in the same skill tree and compare and rub them together to create new insights is because of the fundamental principle of structural similarity that runs through reality. There is a structural similarity between dialectic and cognitive functions. For instance, this is how we can be a Sherlock Holmes, this guy down here. Us. Hooray. But these same, okay, so the application of analogical thinking, because of the principle of structural similarity, which is the condition for analogy, the application of that analogical thinking creates new theories, new root metaphors, new monads, new archetypes. Oh, and we talked about the archetypes today. We talked about the archetype of the Noah. This terrible part of history, but is surfacing a new archetype for what it means to be a Noah. Regular people who seem different, but not different. They don't wear suits, they don't have lots of money, they're not running for office, but they are doing their best to participate in reasoned reflection on causes and principles and to share that movement from ignorance and false beliefs into right opinions and understanding with others on their platforms, on their channels, on their Twitch streams, on their YouTube channels, and so forth. However they're doing it, on their Instagram reels or whatever. New archetypes for what it means to be good people, as opposed to the most disgusting, unjust, murderous, psychopathic, sociopathic people who wear suits or maybe have big muscles that are capitalists and businessmen and bankers. That is the archetype for sickness that we can see emerging because we have the ability to reflect and understand on our situation, meaning we are not stuck in suffering. So the application of analogical thinking allows for that and other many significant discoveries. But the same vehicles of thought can bind us to folly and suffering when they are employed in thought and lives without... The same vehicles of thought can bind us to folly... Uh-oh. Wow. Oops. Oh, okay, can bind us to folly and suffering
Disgusting.
when they
I'm
are...
so disgusted.
See, so good. Disgusting, absolutely. When they are employed in thought and lives, when they are employed in thought and lives, when without understanding, and not just understanding, but applying that understanding to our proper function. What's our proper function as human beings? That's what we've been seeing over and over again. To master this progress. Oh, we got it. We got it here. What's our function? To experience each of the stages of cognitive functioning and development, and in turn encourage others to take this passage. That's our functioning. That's how we employ understanding. Not to understand how we can manipulate people to get money. I mean, that shit. Specifically, how to employ analogical thinking with understanding in our proper function to go through that development, which includes midwifery, includes philosophy, includes dream analysis, and includes poggers when you also include mythology. That's a four-pronged approach or system, all of which uses analogy, all of which uses the dialectic, all of which uses the logos, and all of which is our proper functioning as human beings. And if you want to know what happens if we don't use analogies with understanding in our proper functioning, turn on the television. Or record your dreams, because the dreams will point to you when you are falling into these problems to help you get out of your particular issue. Solving your issue is what you're here for. So reflect on your dreams. It will also help you do the positive, as well as helping you get out of the negative. Your dream master is your guide. Oh, and that's the end of the chapter. Hooray.
You a poggers.
We're gonna engage in dishonesty?
I'm too pure. I've been a bad
Wait,
little
that's
girl.
weird that you think that.
What?
Wow.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking.
Okay, lots of cheering, lots of sound drops for the end of the chapter. Oh, now we're on to this is the first page of the next chapter. I used the copier at the library, so I got 2 pages here. All right, that's the end. Congratulations. We are 3 chapters in to reading the most important book ever written so far. Good for us. I hope you got a lot of questions out of that. Thank you for joining me. Be sure to follow along on Twitch and YouTube and ask questions live. You can join the Discord. You'll get a message when we go live. If you want to donate to the channel, there's a link somewhere below. And I really, really appreciate it. Helps keep the laptop working so I can keep doing this. Yeah, and look out for those special people who glow with the radiance and beauty that transcends their physical appearance, yet shines through their physical appearance, confuses the dum-dums, but they function with a kind of grace that might awaken your wonder and curiosity about these new archetypes of what it means to be a wonderful human being. Look out for them, and maybe share with them what you are learning about the Logos and the Pathologos. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.